My name's Andy Bates. I work in leather, so I make things out of leather. I teach people to make things out of leather, and I write about leather and study leather historically and as things are made presently.
Now we're here at the town hall today, and I believe that you're involved in an exhibition that tells us quite a lot about the history of tanning in Morpeth. Can you tell us who the tanners were, what they did, and where they worked?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm here with the Antiquarian Society today, demonstrating traditional leather techniques. Now, the tanners, every major town had tanneries. And tanning is the process whereby animal skins are transformed into leather. The definition is transforming skins into a material that's non-putrescible, i.e. it doesn't rot. So the process of tanning that was used in Morpeth was a vegetable tanning process. So it was where oak bark was used in pits, soaked in pits with cow hides and calf skins, goat skins, and turned into leather. As far as I've seen so far, there were two tanneries in Morpeth. There was one up Cotting Lane and left into the estate there, and one just along from where Lidl presently is. Now, both of those tanneries are situated on burns, because you need a small, controllable supply of water to go into the tan pits where the bark is and the skins. And you'll find that in pretty much all towns. The old tanneries were always on these burns.
Now, I would imagine that the tanners needed a ready supply of other things as well, such as the base material and where they would get the skins from, and they would also need other things in the process of doing the tanning. So how did they get that? Definitely.
Well, one of the main things they needed for this vegetable tanning process was bark, and the traditional bark to produce tannin that was used in the UK was oak, so there needed to be a ready supply of oak trees. And just outside Morpeth we have bluebell wood. Now, as I understand it, oak was harvested from there, the bark was removed, and that went into the tan pits. It was chopped up into little bits and it was put in the pits. And these hides from cattle, from the cattle markets and stuff, they would go into these pits and they would soak there for up to a year to 18 months to turn them into a really, really lovely leather.
It sounds a bit of a not very neighbour-friendly operation. What would it be like living close to a tannery?
Not to put too fine a point on it, it would stink. It would absolutely reek. Some of the other substances that were used in making leather were things like dog poo. The bacteria in that partially rots, if you like, some leather, and it makes it easier to remove the fats and the hairs from it. And you imagine pits full of tons of dog poo. The reek of that must have been absolutely horrendous. Then you've got bits of flesh off the leather, and this would go out into the burns, and people would be living along these burns and around these burns. They'd be taking their drinking water from these burns. It would be absolutely reeking. It would stink. It really, really would.
And what sort of things were made on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely everything. Leather used to be used for pretty much everything. So you've got the things you might expect, like shoes, footwear, boots, horse harness, saddles, carriage fittings, but also things like leather bottles. Leather bottles have always been used. There's an 11th century Anglo-Saxon document called Alfric's Colloquy that describes at least 4 different types of leather bottle and gives them different names. Leather tankards called jacks, they were used up until at least the late Victorian era in place of glass. Glass was expensive, leather was cheap, there was so much of it about. You've also got the advantage that if you drop your leather jack, you'll spill your beer, but you're not going to break your drinking vessel. When
did the tanneries die out, and why did they die out?
It looks like vegetable tanning, certainly in Morpeth, it looks like the tanneries closed down around about the 1890s. This was the old vegetable tanning process. It was a very slow, very long process. I think, as I said, the process of turning a single hide, a single cow hide, into leather would last a year to 18 months. There was another tanning process called chrome tanning, using chrome salts. That was introduced in the late 19th century. It's a much faster, much more industrial process. So a tannery could turn out hundreds of hides, hundreds of skins in a matter of days rather than a year or 18 months. And if a tannery failed to modernise, if they kept the old tan pits, they go out of business. If they were turning out leather that it took them a year to produce versus 3 or 4 days, they'd be out of business pretty quickly. So that's what I suspect happened in Morpeth, because these tanneries, looking at the maps, appear to have these tan pits, so it would have been the old vegetable tanning process. So I suspect that's the reason why they died out.
So presumably was the atmosphere in Morpeth was a lot sweeter after the tanneries closed.
I would imagine when that stench had gone, yes, it would be a lot more pleasant without the smell of dog poo and other materials wafting around the town.
Now you mentioned that there's a renewed interest in tannery and leather work these days. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently.
Sure, yeah, it's quite a big undertaking. I'm working with national bodies like the UK Leather Federation and the Worshipful Company of Leather Sellers and the National Leather Collection in Northampton, which is the biggest collection of the most amazing leather artefacts in the world. We're working on putting courses together to train people in these traditional leather skills to get them back into the workplace. We've just gained the approval through the accreditation company NCFE to deliver accredited courses. So when the courses start, we'll be able to train people to QCF level 2 and 3, which is GCSE and A-level level. And the plan is to train people in colleges and establishments around the country and to feed people back into the leather industries. And really to try to put leather back on the map and to give it the kind of status that it really deserves. And as part of that, I'm hoping to be running courses around Morpeth very, very soon.
Right, so if people were interested in taking part in those courses, who did they contact?
So get in contact with me if they email me at andymwbates@yahoo.com. I can speak to them, possibly meet them, and we'll see if we can get them sorted out with the course and hopefully a qualification.